Well, well, well. How the turntables...
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is morning somewhere for January 16, 2025. Why is that song so early? My name is Bernie Burns, sitting right over there. She is T-minus 4 billion for launch. It's Ashley Burns. Hi, Ashley, everybody.
Look, I'm always running a little bit late. If a girl can't run a 4 billion late, I mean, what do you expect?
Man, that's in reference to the fact that we are up early today, and Blue Origin is literally launching their rocket today. Their big new launch that they are doing out of the Florida launch pad that hasn't been used, I think, in like half a century. The New Glenn rocket. So this will be in the background the whole time we're doing this. They actually have just launched. So
well, that's
congratulations, everybody.
Yeah, hooray! Because this is a launch that I believe was going to happen earlier this week, but they held off on it due to vehicle subsystem issues.
Well, you will like this one, Ashley. They had problems with this one because some dude in a boat was out there too close, and they were like, get the boat out of here.
Interference by boat. Is that a foul you can call? Like, is there like a space referee who's like, foul?
Listen, you don't want to antagonize a rocket company, right? Because you don't know what they've got. Like this, like let's hit them with some artillery out there. Just get rid of them, clear the way.
Or perhaps a fish.
I mean, can you imagine like what that would cost some dude like literally like trolling, like going by catching fish while they're trying to get their rocket to take off? But this one, I didn't know this. They're going to land it. They're going to land the first stage down in a barge.
Okay, so Blue Origin is also working then on being able to reclaim rockets.
Right.
And what's the goal of this one?
The elephant in the room that we're not saying here is that it's like SpaceX. I looked at this. There's a community of people. Currently, the official launch thread for the New Glenn rocket is 138 comments long on the subreddit. That subreddit for Blue Origin has 36,000 members in it. The SpaceX subreddit has 3.4 million.
So what you're saying is we're cheering for the underdog here. The underdog billionaires company.
Let me check my math on it real quick. 36,000 is less.
That's true. I think I'm going to start counting zeros, but I think you might be right there. But
I think it's fun because this is a community of dedicated people. You know, I think SpaceX gets a lot of glory and a lot of spotlight. But if you're interested in this kind of thing, you can find your small little pocket community for a new like an upstart rocket company.
Well, I do think it's really important as we're sort of moving away from NASA doing a lot of things on its own and using more private companies to do things. I think it's really important that we have like more than one of those that's a viable option. Obviously, Boeing has been trying and had a couple of issues that we may have discussed a little bit last year. And I think, Blue Origin's got some catch up to do, but we do need more than one option.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because I associate the Boeing spacecraft with like being a private contractor for NASA, and NASA's the one launching them. Whereas SpaceX, it's like start to finish. They're everything.
Right, but it's also, in a lot of ways, it's like NASA contracting them, right? Like, they're like, yes, please take people to and from the ISS. They're still doing contracts, but I think you're right that SpaceX has definitely marketed itself very much as a private thing, where Boeing has probably had contracts in place for ages and ages. So they feel less independent, but they are still a contractor.
I do think it's interesting because if you look at this, I'm watching these screens right now, like the mission control for all of these companies looks the same. Like they came up with an architecture for everyone facing the same way in screens and stations. And it's just like, that works and we're never going to change it. It'd be interesting if there was a rocket company that's all work from home and everybody's like on a group chat and that was it, But
then what do you do if someone is like got high latency?
Right. Well, listen, modern problems,
Interestingly enough, this is really exciting, but it's not the only launch. There was another launch earlier this week. It was a shared American-Japanese project. I think it was robotic landers that are headed off towards the moon.
Yeah. It looks like everything's going well. It's going really, really, really well. I think those projects, I like those. I'm sorry. I was referring. I'm watching this here on the side. I was referring to the launch seems to be going well for Blue Origin. The joint project with the U.S. and Japan. I would hope that space travel would be that across the board. Like, why develop all these things in parallel channels? Like, we're all trying to get off the planet and get into space. You know, I admire that, you know, these people have built these incredible companies that can all launch these rockets, but I can't help but feel like if we just put all of that stuff together, we'd make more progress more quickly.
I agree completely. But then you also get these sort of the financial mentality comes into it, which is who's paying for what and then who gets like what share of the thing. Like anytime you bring money into it, and guess what? At the moment, space travel is expensive. That's going to cause issues. So it actually makes me happy anytime it is able to actually happen, anytime we get these sort of international collaborations.
Okay, I'm officially going to turn this off because this all looks good, and I'm being very distracted over here, and I apologize for that. Of course, we haven't even mentioned this. Blue Origin is the company that's primarily funded by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, Bezos.
Yeah, it's a 320-foot rocket carrying an experimental platform designed to host satellites or release them into their proper orbit. For this test, the satellite was expected to remain inside the second stage while circling the Earth. The mission was expected to last 6 hours, with the second stage then placed in a safe condition to stay in a high, out-of-the-way orbit in accordance with NASA's practices for minimizing space junk.
Well, you know what, Blue Origin, you're going to have to like get in line for the early riser business, because by the time this podcast comes out, your mission's already going to be almost complete.
The thing I'm really curious about is, because it still looks amazing to me every time I see it, is whether or not they can pull off this. It says here, the first stage booster aimed to land on a barge in the Atlantic minutes after liftoff so that it could be recycled. We're not at that point yet, so you will be able to see that when you're listening to this podcast.
And if it succeeds, Bezos is going to buy everyone a taco.
It's either really cool and the rocket lands or blows up. So it's usually one or the other. So it's good. Or it lands on a boat by some dude who's like out there with a boombox playing fucking Kid Rock or something. It is Florida after all.
It's a boat parade.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
You know, I have to say, Burnie, there's something for everyone today, because you're really excited about this launch. I'm really excited about the Daredevil trailer that came out.
I sent you the Daredevil
trailer. I know you did. You know me so well.
So Daredevil's getting a TV show?
Yes. So Daredevil has been, it was one of the early Marvel TV series, but it took place on Netflix. And so for a long time, it was sort of up in the air as to how it fit into the canon of the MCU, especially once Disney started doing all of their shows on Disney Plus, right? And Daredevil's popped up already. Matt Murdock was a cameo in Spider-Man.
That's right.
And then he also played a role in the She-Hulk series.
Yeah.
A very minor role.
It's a character that keeps popping up in different places, and every time people get very excited to see Daredevil. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like they're going to use him like as an official like pillar of the MCU, not even for the phase 14 or whatever we're in now.
Well, look, I was a really big fan of Daredevil on Netflix, and one of the things that had me and other Daredevil fans kind of nervous is how Disney is going to treat the character. Because the Daredevil series on Netflix was dark, and it was gritty, and it was violent, and everyone worried that it was going to be, there are going to be a few too many rainbows, right? Once they moved it over to Disney. Because it's far darker and more violent than pretty much any of the series that Disney has put out. And so they put out this trailer, and I feel like whoever was in charge of the creative for it, they said, show us every bone breaking that you can.
It was a pretty violent trailer.
It was, yeah. They made a point of showing that this is still going to be very much in the vein of the Netflix Daredevil, which is good. Because it's been through a lot already. It's already been scrapped and rewritten. They weren't initially going to have a whole bunch of the characters back in it. They weren't gonna have Foggy Nelson. They weren't gonna have Karen. Those characters were just gone.
And he was in the what's the one with Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and all that?
The Defenders. So yeah, that was I loved that. That was like Netflix's version of Avengers. Everyone had their own series. They had the Luke Cage series. They had the Iron Fist series, which was not great, and then tragically ended just as it looked like it could get really good. And they had, let's see, which ones did I go? Jessica Jones. They had Luke Cage. They had Iron Fist. They had Daredevil. They all come together in the Defenders.
Yeah.
And I really liked that, actually. It was a great series. I don't think we're going to see Defenders again, but I wonder if through Daredevil we'll see some of these other characters pop up, because we haven't heard anything about any of them since these Netflix series ended, except for Daredevil.
You like violent stuff. Like, you like John Wick, you like Daredevil. The only exposure I have to Daredevil, the original series, is when you would pull me in and have me watch what looked to be a 20-minute fight sequence in a hallway.
Every single season, they would have this. So every season, it was a tradition in Daredevil to have some kind of hallway fight sequence. And it would be this single long shot, this just extended fight shot in a hallway. And it was one of those shots that you get exhausted watching, right? I love those kinds of fights where you feel exhausted watching it as the characters in the fight sequence are exhausted. That was a big thing in the movie Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron, where there's a big part where she's going through this sort of extended fight sequence, and by the end, her and her opponents can barely stand up. Everyone's just completely worn out from these fights. And I feel like these Daredevil, the hallway fight sequences, God, I hope they keep that tradition, because it was one of the highlights of the series.
I never saw it myself, but people online are always very excited about a movie called Oldboy, where it's one of those, where he just goes through one extended long shot of an incredible fight with lots of people. And I believe that's in a hallway as well.
Well, look, a hallway is kind of the easy way to do that, because they can have all the rooms staged for the stunts, right? Like someone dives into this room and then someone dives out of this room, but it's not even necessarily the same stuntman.
I looked up Oldboy on YouTube and it auto-completed to Oldboy hallway fight scene.
No, I do think that the hallway is the ideal way to do a long shot if you can get away with it.
And the clip on YouTube is 3 minutes and 54 seconds. So
they're brutal,
yeah,
absolutely brutal.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like they're shying away from that for the Disney series at all. There's a reveal in the trailer of a character coming back. Was Punisher in the Defenders as well?
No, he had his own series, but then he popped up in other series. He popped up a bit in Daredevil, where they would pair up and things, but he kept his distance from the rest of them. He's not really a group guy. But when he's been in stuff with Daredevil.
And this is the Punisher who is played by an actor that I really like. Every time I see him in something, I think, wow, this guy is perfect for this role. He was in Walking Dead. He was in one of my favorite movies, Fury.
Yeah, that's John Bernthal, and he's incredible.
Is that his name? Bernthal?
That's how I
mean,
say
we
his
mispronounce
name.
everybody's name, but I would have said Barenthal.
He's actually from a different dimension.
Yeah, he's from a different timeline.
He's from the Mandela timeline, and so his name there is Barenthal.
I swear as a kid, my parents would read me the Barenthal Punishers, not the Bernthal. Punisher's one of those characters that people want to be done well, and I don't know how well you can do that character, because the non-superpowered, just super mad vigilante character with a lot of guns has been in a lot of movies in a lot of different ways. And I think people kind of read into the Punisher, the tropes from those different other movies that they enjoy. And I think everyone just has a different feeling of what the Punisher is.
There's also, I feel like, people want him to be like a certain type of person, but also the Punisher is very angry, not necessarily all sane anymore, and is on your side, thank God, but is not a good person.
No,
does that make sense?
Yeah.
He's a principled vigilante, but he's not nice.
He's an anti-hero.
Yes.
I wonder if he's supposed to be Marvel's Batman, if that's why they made him. Like, is that who he's supposed to be?
If he is, I feel like he's a maybe much more cynical take on the idea. But yeah, as far as being non-powered, yes. But I feel like Batman focuses way more on gadgets, and Bernthal focuses way more on magazine size.
Yeah,
Bernthal.
I suppose that Iron Man now in the modern MCU is supposed to be more like Batman, the rich guy with access to lots of stuff.
Yeah, the billionaire with all the toys.
Yeah, right, and got all the cool gadgets.
But I do like Punisher. I'm excited that he's going to be in it. But probably if it stays the way it was with Netflix series, he'll be sort of like, he'll help him out in some way, but he's not in the whole thing.
Well, he's definitely in this, right?
Right.
Okay. Anything we should know about Daredevil before we go into this? It's not a character I was ever interested in the comics. I just didn't capture my attention in any way whatsoever. The whole thing about, he's blind, so all of his other senses are heightened, or he had some kind of radar, I think was what he developed in the comics. I don't know. I just never bought into that. And it's going to sound really lame. I didn't like his weapons. Like, he had batons, and he would throw these batons, and I thought that was such a lame weapon.
He's really good as a street level villain because it's quite grounded. Like the whole first season.
Villain? You mean a hero?
Sorry. Yeah, what did I say?
Villain. You said villain.
No,
yeah.
Sorry. He's very grounded, street level hero. My mistake. I was probably thinking of through Kingpin at the moment, because Kingpin is another fantastic returning character. But anyway, he's a really good grounded hero for like the neighborhood level stuff, because the whole first season he basically has like a shirt wrapped over his head. And he doesn't even get a uniform until the very, very end. So
really?
he's just setting out trying to right wrongs that no one else is doing. And trying to get justice when the law can't is really where that character goes. And in the show, it's gone to some dark places. It's also gone to weird places. There was an entire plot with they had like Elektra and the Hand in it, and that just got kind of weird and maybe a little bit too mystical. But it seems like they're really bringing it back with this one. The premise is that now Fisk, Kingpin, is the mayor of New York. And I'm kind of teased by the trailer, which is, I'm sure, their goal, because they say in it, they're sitting in a diner together, these mortal enemies, and Fisk is like, I'm not unhappy to see you. And I'm like, what does Fisk want him to do?
I got Heat vibes from the Al Pacino, Robert De Niro movie, where they're just like sitting in a New York diner together, just talking, like essentially mortal enemies. And I got vibes of that from this trailer as well.
No, it's Vincent D'Onofrio is an incredible Kingpin.
It's also
incredible.
It's also set in a kind of diner that I've never seen in New York, except for in New York set movies, which is it's like a trailer, like a mobile home that's covered in aluminum, but it's also a diner. It's bigger than that, but it's a very specific kind of diner I've never seen outside of movies.
Right, because theoretically in New York, there's not a lot of room for things to have their own parking lot for their restaurant and everything. Diners they're wall to wall to wall to wall to wall, right?
Yeah.
On a city block. So if you can get one that's got its own parking lot and its own tin walls, I think you're doing pretty good.
I think it's one diner in all of New York that looks like that, and they decided to include that in every single movie ever.
No, but I'm really excited. It's coming out in March, so it's not a super long wait.
No, that's good. That's good. I don't have to wait very long I've been waiting a while, but it's here. Severance season 2.
That's tomorrow.
They are promoting the shit out of this thing. By the way,
they set the actors up with like cubicles in like a New York train station.
Yeah, they did, and then they had a huge long hallway fight scene, which was really good. Didn't make a lot of sense.
People are throwing goats all over the place.
But I'm just you're focused on the goats.
I'm focused on the goats. I want to know what's up with the goats in Severance.
There was like one very short, odd sequence with goats in the first season, and that was the one moment in that season where I thought, oh no, are they just going to start putting like really weird things and like throwing paint?
Are they going to throw a Lost?
Is this ever going to get paid off at all in any way whatsoever? So we'll see. It didn't matter. I kind of ignore the goats until they matter.
No, I'm just saying, look, writers, if you're listening, we want to know what's up with the goats.
Ashley wants to know about the goats. The rest of us are okay with not knowing about the goats.
The nice thing is, too, to tide me over until Daredevil, I've got something else coming out soon. I've got a new book coming out.
You have a new book. Congratulations on your announcement.
Not from me, but I read a series called... Well, I don't actually call it the series by its name. It's called like the Empyrean or something, but I call it the Fourth Wing series. And this is a young adult romantasy series. And we're going to play a little game, Burnie. The third book, Onyx Storm, is coming out in like a couple of days, in less than a week. And I've read the books in the series, but you have absolutely no idea what those are. So we're going to play a little game. Are you ready?
Yeah.
We're going to play Burnie Writes the Book.
I'm all over it. Burnie Writes the Book. Let's go.
Okay, so here's the plot. Young adult, romantasy, Dragon War College.
Romantasy, okay.
Romantic, and then yes, and just to clarify that, because you are a dude, it does mean romantic fantasy, not Roman fantasy.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
All right.
They're,
What are
and
we
they're in
looking
a
at?
they're in a war. What's the thing? A
like
war
like
college?
war college.
So they're training to go be part of the Great War that has been waging in this land for a very long time, longer than anyone can remember. And as they're being trained up, they've wanted to be a soldier their whole life. But then they discover things about their army, which call into question, what they've believed their entire life. And through that, then on maybe like a first mission or something, they meet another soldier on the other side. There's a moment where maybe one of them saves the other or spares the other, and then they start to fall in love. How close am I here? How close am I?
You're too close for comfort.
Am I really?
Way too close for comfort.
And then a dragon shows up, and they all fall in love together. They have a big dragon threesome. I kind of probably got off the plot there a little bit.
That's way closer than it ought to be. But yes, I'm really excited for this book. It's not going to be like a great American classic, but it's one of those just like stupid fun things that I like to read. And it's like great. The more like girls reading books about dragons, I'm all on board, And it also, honestly, that series makes me want to go back and just reread all of the Pern books that I grew up with. Because I'm like, look, let's get more ladies. Let's get more ladies riding dragons, okay?
Yeah, this discussion, even though I was making fun and saying something that was like kind of a basic plot, reminding me of a book that I want to go back and finish, which I haven't because I was doing about a billion other things at that time. And I think JD gave me an audiobook that I started to listen to and then just went with that one instead. You can't mix audiobooks. There's some people who can read two books at once. I can't do that. I usually just go blast through one and then blast through the next one.
No, I can do a physical book and a different audiobook. That's about the extent of what I can do.
But I need to go back. I want to read this book, This Is How You Lose the Time War, because I started it and for some reason just life got in the way and I fell off of it. So I want to go back and watch that. And my stupid description of people falling in love in a war or whatever. Maybe think about it. This is how you lose the time war. I'll have to pick that back up again.
Yeah, so I'm super excited. It comes out in a couple of days. All right, well, I want to say a big thank you to today's Dragon Riders, Zach Paloma and Richie Vidala. Thank you both for sponsoring this episode of our show at patreon.com/Morning Somewhere.
You two go have a fight in a hallway somewhere for us today. All right, well, that does it for us today, January 16th, 2025. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you will be here as well.
Bye, everybody.